Film is a machine of memory. It captures light, movement, voice, and sometimes things no one remembers happening. Across decades of cinematic history, there have been anomalies, moments hidden in plain sight, in the background, along a wall, beneath a flickering light, shadows that appear with no actor to cast them, no lamp to summon them, no explanation to follow them. They weren't mistakes in blocking. They weren't crew reflections. These were shapes that made no narrative sense, had no production footprint, and yet refused to disappear. Directors dismissed them. Editors tried to fix them. Some were called accidents. Others were left unspoken. But the camera doesn't hallucinate. It records exactly what's there or what it's told is there. And in these films, something else slipped in. Some say these were technical flukes, optical quirks, leftover exposures from other takes. But in almost every case, someone involved in the production said the same thing. We didn't see anything at the time. That's what makes them different. These shadows weren't part of the world around the camera. They appeared later burned into the footage, like bruises the film stock couldn't hide. Today, we're uncovering 15 films where the shadows don't match the light or logic. Scenes where the background moved when it shouldn't have, where something crossed the frame unannounced and stayed. You may not have noticed these shadows before, but once you do, you'll never watch these movies the same way again. So ask yourself, when the camera catches a shadow no one else saw, who or what was really there? Hasson, The Exorcist, 1973. The scariest scene in The Exorcist isn't loud. It doesn't involve screaming or levitation. It's a hallway, empty, still, watching. The camera creeps toward Regan's room, the walls are quiet, the carpet muffles sound. Then, just before the cut, a shadow crosses the frame from left to right. Smooth, confident, human. No one was staged for that shot. No actor was dressed. No lights were adjusted to create that shape. In one interview, Friedkin said, "Some things show up in the footage that weren't in the room." An editor later confirmed they tried to remove the shape for a remastered edition. The system crashed repeatedly. The file wouldn't render. They stopped trying. Every version of the film keeps the moment. Brief, precise, unexplained. What walks through a house after the doors are locked and the camera is still rolling? #2, Rosemary's Baby, 1968. Everything in Rosemary's Baby is about tension. Not what you see, but what you think you did. And one scene gives that suspicion a body. As Rosemary walks past the staircase in her apartment, her shadow moves predictably. But below on the first landing, another figure rises. Its form is faint, but distinct, upright, walking against the light. The landing was blocked. No crew was stationed there. No actor entered the scene. The production logs confirm only a single performer in that frame. When fans spotted it years later, they wrote to Mia Farrow asking about the moment. She never responded. Restoration didn't remove the shape, it only made it clearer. If fear can be felt in silence, can it climb stairs when no one else does? #3, Eyes Wide Shut, 1999. Kubrick didn't leave room for improvisation. Every light, every footstep, every reflection, controlled. And that's exactly why the hallway scene in Eyes Wide Shut still unsettles people. Tom Cruise moves through a corridor lit by chandeliers, alone. His steps echo. His shadow trails him faithfully, but then another shape enters frame behind him. It's not moving with him. It's not mirrored. It appears late, then fades before fully forming. There was no background actor, no lighting equipment positioned at that angle, nothing in the story to suggest another figure should be there. One assistant editor recalled mentioning it during post. Kubrick reviewed the frame, paused, then nodded. "Leave it," he said. "Nothing else." The shadow appears in all releases. The scene was never corrected. It doesn't break continuity, but it bends expectation, subtly, permanently. If a director known for precision allowed a flaw to remain, are you sure it was a flaw? #4, Hereditary, 2018. In Hereditary, the horror doesn't announce itself. It waits. It lingers. And in one scene, it simply stands and dares you to notice. The camera drifts across the Graham family's living room. Light spills from the kitchen behind. All is quiet. Then, in the far left corner, something is visible. A figure, unmoving, barely shaped, but distinctly human. It's not one of the characters. No one's supposed to be in the room. No dialogue, no cue, just presence. Ari Aster, known for carefully placed background terror, answered vaguely when asked, "Not everything you see is ours." Lighting designers claimed there were no sources pointed at that corner. Production blueprints confirm no prop or dummy was placed there. It doesn't blink. It doesn't step forward. It just exists for 5 full seconds. What kind of haunting needs no action no noise, no threat, only attention. #5, Solaris 1972. Few films are as meditative as Tarkovsky's Solaris. It's a work of reflection on memory, grief, and the fragile structure of perception. But one scene might contain more reflection than it was meant to. As a character walks along a metallic corridor, his shape appears in the glossy surface beside him. Then, briefly, a third figure joins. It's not a duplicate. It doesn't match the actor's movements. It appears a second later, stands too straight, and then vanishes. No other actor was staged. There were no projection screens or compositing. The corridor was sealed. The effect was never recreated elsewhere in the film. Later commentary suggests the moment may have been the result of optical confusion, but several visual effects experts who examined the footage concluded it had no layering, just light, glass, and something else that stepped in. When memory becomes form, can a shadow be the first thing it learns to wear? Ringu built its fear around what the eye couldn't see until it was too late. But in one quiet scene, the camera might have caught something the curse didn't intend to reveal. Inside a modest cabin, Reiko scans the walls for clues. The lighting is soft, nothing theatrical. Then, in the upper corner of the frame, a faint figure appears, resting on the wall like a stain. It doesn't move. It doesn't match Reiko's outline, and it seems to be facing the camera. No mirrors, no reflective surfaces, nothing nearby to bounce light. Set design notes confirm the walls were solid wood, no seams, no openings. No crew member recalls standing there, yet the presence is clear, even more so in remastered versions. A fan later enhanced the frame digitally. What they found: the figure is wearing what appears to be a skirt or a long dress. The hairstyle isn't Reiko's. The director never addressed it. The producers didn't comment. If Sadako wasn't in that room, who was? Septyni alien okuble 1992. Chaos defined the production of Alien Cubed, but among its fractured edits and tonal dissonance, one sequence remained untouched, quiet, short, and entirely wrong. As Ripley walks down a dim corridor, her shadow leans across the wall behind her. Then, from the far edge of the frame, another shape appears. It doesn't follow, it doesn't retreat. It just leans forward, pauses, and slips out of view before light can reach it. There's no character assigned to that part of the scene, no xenomorph, no prisoner. The script confirms Ripley is alone, and the production team never listed any technical notes for that shot. A post-production editor later remarked, "It didn't look like anything we were supposed to be filming, but it didn't look like a mistake either." Fincher never acknowledged it. The present stays unlabeled in all versions, like a stowaway no one dared to cut. What if something entered the film not through story, but through opportunity? Hashite. Picnic at Hanging Rock, 1975. There's a stillness to Picnic at Hanging Rock, a kind of warm paralysis. The Australian landscape is painted in sunlight, but something in it doesn't behave like light should. During a long wide shot, several girls walk across sunlit stone. Shadows stretch beneath them, each one clear except for one. One girl moves exactly like the rest, but the ground beneath her stays blank. No shape, no movement, no trace. Natural light, no filters, no post-effects. The camera doesn't even pan. Russell Boyd, the cinematographer, later called the moment a beautiful accident. But when asked why they didn't fix it, he added, "There was nothing to fix. That was the problem." Restoration teams have confirmed the absence. It isn't a compression error. It isn't a visual artifact. She's real. Her image is solid. But she casts no shadow. Can the world refuse to acknowledge someone, even while they're still standing in it? #9, Don't Look Now, 1973. Don't Look Now isn't just a film about grief. It feels like it's grieving with you. Every frame carries weight, but one frame might have carried more than it was supposed to. As Donald Sutherland turns a corner through a narrow Venetian alley, the camera trails behind. His shadow glides along the bricks, steady, but then another one joins it. It flickers from the edge of the frame, overtakes his own, then disappears into the wall. Only one light source existed for the scene, practical, placed behind the actor. No crew member walked nearby, and the edit shows no splice, just a clean, continuous shot. Set reports show nothing unusual, but a lighting assistant once described a delay in how the shadows responded during that take, like the wall was holding onto something. The extra shadow has never been explained, never removed, never addressed. What happens when a place remembers something and casts its own silhouette to prove it? Hassan Zero, The Blair Witch Project, 1999. What makes The Blair Witch Project unsettling isn't what it shows, it's what it refuses to. The fear is in absence, but one buried clip might be the only true presence it ever captured. In a cutscene recovered from raw footage, the camera tumbles to the forest floor. A branch sways in frame, the flashlight flickers, and then just as the actors' voices fade, a figure stretches across the background. It doesn't walk, it drifts. No footsteps, no breathing, just motion. The camera crew insists the actors were alone. The area was cleared, no one stood behind the shot. The lighting source was handheld and low to the ground, incapable of projecting such height. When asked in an anniversary featurette, one of the filmmakers simply said, "We reviewed every second of tape. That one still doesn't make sense." Some believe it was just foliage shifting in the dark. Others think it's the only time the camera caught exactly what the characters were running from. What if the forest gave the camera one glance and never did again? Hassanone, The Entity, 1982. Terror in The Entity isn't theatrical. It's intimate, personal, invasive. But one moment may be more than metaphor. It may be film catching something its makers didn't intend. The protagonist crosses her living room. A soft lamp glows in the corner. She moves past calmly, and then, without warning, a shape glides across the opposite wall. It moves too quickly for a person walking, too smoothly for a shadow cast by her body. The angle is reversed. It doesn't align. On set, no one noticed it. The shot was approved. Only in post did the anomaly appear. Stephen H. Burham gave a brief response when asked years later, "That wall shouldn't have caught anything." And yet it did. Even stranger, the same figure or its echo shows up twice more in the film. Once in a bedroom, once in a hallway mirror. Always peripheral, always just at the edge of belief. When a film is about invisible force, what happens when something decides to show itself? Hassanone 2, The Keep, 1983. Michael Mann's The Keep is a fever dream of stone, shadow, and sound. What was intended as a mythic horror film became a fractured hallucination, but somewhere inside the chaos, a moment still lingers too real to be surreal. In one of the final scenes, a German soldier walks slowly through a fog-drenched chamber. The lighting is stark, a single source overhead. His figure stretches across the dust-filled space, long and angular. Then another shadow emerges, subtle but wrong. It walks beside him, not behind. Its motion isn't mirrored, but separate, not faster, not slower, just following its own path. Lighting logs show no additional source, no secondary actor, no translucent material to distort. The production team attempted reshoots but couldn't recreate the second shadow. It never came back. One gaffer reportedly said the fog held shape too long during that take, like something invisible was there to catch it. Can air carry more than light? Can it hold something waiting to be seen? Hassanone 3, The Innocents, 1961. Some ghosts in The Innocents speak with silence, others with stillness, and one may have chosen the mirror. In a hushed nighttime scene, the governess walks slowly past a tall antique mirror, candle in hand. Her reflection behaves normally, but as she leaves the frame, something else doesn't. For a full second, a darker silhouette, heavier, broader, remains fixed in the glass. It faces inward. It does not move. Jack Clayton claimed in later interviews that it was a stray crew member, but blocking notes show no one on that side of the set. The space behind the mirror was sealed with blackout cloth. No room to stand, no light to project form. High-resolution restorations have only deepened the mystery. The shape is too well defined to be a smudge. There's the curve of a face, what looks like the outline of a hand, closed lips, eyes not blinking but aware. What does a mirror reflect when no one's looking directly into it? Hassanone 4, Possession, 1981. Possession is a descent into emotional collapse, but also a film that blurs the real and unreal with surgical precision. Amidst its chaos, there is a moment too clean, too still, and utterly chilling. As Isabelle Adjani's character convulses violently in a deserted subway, the camera pans wide. She is alone. The scene is raw, unrehearsed, and brutal. But behind her, a form stands etched into the wall's light. For a few seconds, it doesn't flicker, it doesn't react. It's not her shadow, it doesn't align. Its posture is different. It's watching. The tunnel had been locked down. No lighting beyond overhead fluorescence. No crew allowed behind the frame. And yet, in post-production, this figure, unmoving and unblinking, was discovered in playback. Zhuovsky, when asked, smiled and replied, "There are things the camera finds when we stop controlling it." The figure was never digitally removed, never publicly addressed again. Can an emotional breakdown leave behind something more than memory, something visible? Hassanone 5, The Shuttered Room, 1967. Obscure even in its own era, the Shuttered Room rarely makes modern retrospectives, but one frame inside its rotting corridors has haunted film analysts for decades. The protagonist walks down a wooden hallway, the camera gliding behind her. There's only one source of light. She turns a corner, and then, before she exits the frame, something glides across the wall ahead of her. A shadow, not hers. It's narrower, too tall, and most importantly, traveling in the opposite direction. Lighting notes from the production indicate no alternate rigs in the area, no crew positioned on that side of the set. The scene was shot in a single take, no visual effects, no rear projection. When questioned about the moment, the director dismissed it as a light leak. The cinematographer declined comment entirely, but a set decorator later confessed they had to redo that hallway multiple times due to electrical issues and weird drafts. No one saw the shape on the day, but it's present in every version. Clear, wrong, permanent. How can something with no physical form cast something so sharp, so specific, and so undeniable? Bonus: Peeping Tom, 1960. Peeping Tom turned the camera into a weapon. It made audiences uncomfortable by asking one question: who's really watching? But in one scene, the camera may have filmed something watching back. Inside the dark room, the killer stands over trays of developing film. Red light soaks the frame, nothing moves. But in the clear divider behind him, a thin layer of glass or plastic, a shape slowly emerges, unmoving, facing him, facing us. It's not a reflection. His own reflection is visible. This is something else, broader, motionless, out of sync. The shot was filmed practically, no overlays, no effects, no additional actor listed, and yet, in multiple versions of the film, the figure remains. Years later, during an interview, editor Thelma Schoonmaker mentioned the moment with a strange pause. That image was not in any of the dailies. It showed up in the assembly. Attempts to recreate the shot failed. The angle no longer existed. The divider had been dismantled. The lighting didn't behave the same. In the final film, the killer never notices, but the figure does. It appears to be looking straight through the lens. If you build a story around a camera that kills, what happens when the camera becomes the hunted? A shadow is supposed to be harmless, just light blocked, just shape. But in these films, shadows appeared that couldn't be traced, couldn't be explained, couldn't be undone. They didn't belong to the actors. They didn't obey the lighting plan. They just showed up, burned into the footage like something waiting to be noticed. Some were brushed off as flukes, others were never spoken of again. But frame by frame, they remain. Not glitches, not ghosts, just presences that arrived without warning and never left. So now, we turn the question to you. Which of these shadows disturbed you the most? Were they just accidents caught between takes? Or did the camera see something no one else could? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, stories that hide between edits and whisper between frames, subscribe to Darkroom Cinema, because sometimes the scariest thing in a movie is what no one meant to film.